principle number 7, and this is different. We've been talking about the law of attraction, the law of reflection. We've talked about whether you see it coming to you or it's a reflection of you. There's some essential things that we have to get to in order to really activate this whole mechanism. If you remember, in principle number 2, I think it was, that the authority is you, right? It's all you. So if you're going to raise your vibration, if you're going to be vibrating at a higher level, functioning at a higher level in your life, you're going to have to get access to all those parts of you that aren't vibrating on that level. You're going to have to get cued in to all of the material that you've been ignoring, denying, suppressing, hiding from, being dishonest about. All of that material that may just be too ugly, too painful to actually see. Remember also, in principle number 5, I talked about this being real time. The law of reflection, 6, the law of reflection was real time. And so I used the example of the past about how it was a story in the present. Well, in principle number 7, I want to go into a very subtle but very important point. There is at the heart of this entire thing for every single individual kind of a core story, an original story, a foundational story that the rest of your life is really based on. And for pretty much all of us, that story boils down to this. I am not enough. I'm not smart enough, strong enough, pretty enough, tall enough, old enough, young enough, rich enough, spiritual enough, whatever it is. We have a million different adjectives we like to assign to it, but it really boils down to this. I am not enough. And obviously, this is an ugly thought. This is not a thought that any of us would love to admit to, that we would love to own, especially if we really believed it. And there was a time in your life when you did. You really did believe it. Because it seemed to be the only explanation, the only interpretation of what was going on in your life. And this happened at a time before you had language, before you could use reason, before you could actually discriminate between what was somebody else's reaction and what was you. It happened at a time when you were really innocent. Now, I'm going to propose an alternative to you. I'm going to propose an alternative for you to consider. You know, the whole self-help hamster wheel we all get on. You know, I love self-help. I do a lot of self-help work. I coach people in self-help things. You know, my mission in life is to alleviate suffering, right? And to help people live better, happier, fuller lives. To be free, to be more functional, to get things out of life they want. And I run into all the time these very, very dark, hidden things. Call them the unconscious. I don't actually like that word. They're just these hidden things that are sitting there that we don't want to look at. And they boil down to this idea: I am not enough. But I have found consistently, as I remove even a tiny part of this, something really magical happens. And it jumps off of the self-help hamster wheel. And I call that my principle number 7. You're not broken. What would it be like if you approached your life from the point of view that you were not broken? Notice how all the self-help work you've done, most of the premises behind self-help, behind therapy and analysis and pretty much everything we do to fix ourselves assumes that we're broken and we need to be fixed. Now tell me something. If your basic underlying assumption is I'm not enough or I'm broken, will you ever really be able to raise your vibration to the level of someone who is totally free and open to the bounty the universe has to offer? Is it possible? As long as this assumption is going on underneath, how is it at all possible that you could ever rise to the level of vibration that is harmonious with all good, with all prosperity, with all health and abundance? There would always be something in the way. And so we would be running forever on the hamster wheel of self-help, chasing what I call the law of infinite prerequisites. There's always this other thing I need to get to, this other thing I need to learn, this other thing I need to acquire, this other habit I got to get rid of. It never, ever ends. That's why I call it the law of infinite prerequisites. If anybody here has ever remodeled a house, you know that when you open this part of the wall to fix this, and suddenly, oh my God, I got to fix this, and now I got to fix this, and I got to fix this, and I got to run off to the hardware store because I don't have the right tool, and on and on and on it goes. And it never stops. It never stops. You know what? It can't stop. Because as long as I'm not enough is present, buried down within consciousness, it'll never, ever be satisfied. Because that standard you're supposed to meet, that golden magic standard you're supposed to meet that says, now you're enough, now you're okay, is completely undefined. It's not written anywhere. You can't find it anywhere. And in fact, your whole life is actually assuming you're not enough and chasing whatever holds out the promise that you could be. Now, I want to just kind of wipe this out for a second. Just wipe it out. Gone. What would your life be like if you started from the point of view that you're not broken? If you started from the point of view of, I am enough. Now, for most of us, this is inconceivable, but I'm not enough. I don't have enough. I don't have enough money. I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough stuff. I got to get through this thing. I don't have enough. I need another certification so I can, right? We're spending our whole life running around, chasing enough. But what if it's been sitting here all along? I'm going to present to you an idea that to me is just a fact. It's an absolute fact of the truth. It is the truth. And in another video, in part of the regular class I do, I go into the whole details of how I discovered this. It was a very deeply moving personal experience that I had that, boom, changed my life forever. But I discovered a very fundamental principle. And I also discovered the mechanism by which this principle gets obscured. And that fundamental principle I named original innocence. Original innocence. The innocence that was there in the beginning, but has gotten obscured by our interaction with life. What if this is what's actually underneath everything? And the I am broken, or the I am not enough, was laid on top of it. You know, everybody comes into life with particular tendencies, right? Everybody comes, some people say we come from past life with baggage that's already built in. But at some point, there was this absolute, pristine, unconditioned, unprogrammed innocence. I mean, what were you before you were conditioned? Now, I saw this as clearly as I can see the nose on my face. And I'm presenting it here to you as just something to take in. Let your heart take this in. Imagine, this means unconditional forgiveness. This means everything you've done in your life has not meant because you've been broken, it's because you made a mistake. It's not because you weren't enough, it's because you were enough, but people told you you weren't. It would be a completely different way of living. That doesn't mean we don't grow. Of course we're going to grow. I have to learn how to tie my shoes. But if I'm a little slow in learning to tie my shoes, that doesn't mean I'm not enough. It doesn't mean I wasn't born to be a shoe tire. It simply means that that's how fast I learn it. That's how I do it. That's how I get it. But when we get compressed in this thing, we're supposed to look a certain way, be a certain way, act a certain way. We lose our soul. We lose our essence. And that is what principle number 7 is about. It's bringing back that original innocence. Bringing back that which was there before it ever got programmed, before a condition ever got put into place. Every cell in your body is engaged in this freedom and safety. Safety. Every cell of you wants to survive, and at the same time, it needs to do what it's here to do. It needs to fulfill its purpose in life, to be born, to fulfill it, and to die, which is what all of us go through. That's what it is. And so, this conflict between safety and freedom is there the moment we enter the world. Now, your parents, your tribe, your culture, your society, religion, all of these have the job of keeping you safe. That's their number one job, not keeping you free. Freedom is that's a luxury. If you get the opportunity to do it, you make enough money, good things happen to you. Yeah, you'll get to be free. But safety is what it's all about. Safety is the rule, keeping you safe. And that safety might be from arbitrary laws of the tribe that are going to put you to shame. So you don't touch yourself there. You don't speak like that. You don't dress like that. You don't act like that. You don't say those things. You sit down and be quiet. You don't speak unless you're spoken to. The millions of laws that we impose on children to keep them contained within the social framework. Yet at the same time, unavoidably, inevitably, within us is this drive for freedom, which is our drive for what? Our drive for self-expression. And this is the drive of society for self-suppression. Only if who you are, expressing who you are, matches what society expects, what the culture expects, what your tribe expects, what your tribe regards as being within the confines of what's allowed, is it allowed? Otherwise, it's got to be cut off from you. Cut off like your leg. It cannot come out. If it does come out, it's going to meet with shame, guilt, physical violence, diminishment, punishment, all sorts of things, because that's the weapons of safety. The weapons of safety, interesting enough, are to threaten you, to make you afraid, so that you will maintain a certain way of being. Now, before any judgment is put on your behavior, what is your behavior? It's perfectly natural, isn't it? It's perfectly innocent. So what was there first? Innocence. That was there first. Your natural tendency towards self-expression ran into the rules of the tribe and got turned back in on itself and says, you can't be that way. Now, the nervous system, being as brilliant as it is, being able to learn to do things without the need of the conscious intelligence to do it, but to just respond to its environment, is quite capable of making all these shifts long before you can reason out what's happening. Remember, this is a download. This is just going right in there. You're not questioning this. This is reality. There is no world beyond this. There's no choice here. There's no free will here. There is only the drive to survive and the drive for self-expression. And those two bump heads. Now, when that happens, obviously, certain things you're allowed to be, certain things you aren't. Now, some of the things that you are not allowed to be may very well be the best parts of you, the most expressive, that which is the most you, the most what you are actually like in your essence may be one of those parts that isn't allowed. And we all feel that sense of being shut down, of being cut off, of being out of place, of being living in a world where we don't belong, coming from another planet. We've all felt that because this is what has happened to us. We have to have a model for this to fit. Humans are not just Pavlov dogs. We're just not salivating when the bell rings. We have this higher intelligence that begins to wrap a story around the whole thing. It begins to wrap something that interprets and makes sense of the whole thing. It starts to form I'm going to erase this first. It starts to form the most creative and unique creation that's ever been seen. It forms an I am. I am this. I am that. I am good boy. I am bad girl. I am, and the list of what I am grows. And what that does is create this thing we know of as an identity. It becomes who I am. This is your core story. This is your original truth. This is all the material that gets pushed down into the basement where it can't be seen. And why? Because if this story, which it is for most of us, is I am not enough, it's just too horrible to look at. So we spend our whole lives pretending to be enough, trying to be enough, doing all the things we need to be enough, and yet never actually feeling like enough. And yet, the entire time, underneath this whole thing, this whole pile of stuff, is original innocence. The original, pristine, unconditioned, unprogrammed self. And here's the good news. Here's the really good news. You get this? Okay, good. Here's that innocence that I told you about, the one that's sitting at the center of this whole thing. Innocence. All the stuff is happening in the environment, the identity gets created, the nervous system puts in the layers of behavior, right? Because you've got all this stuff coming from the outside world, you've got all these events coming from the tribe, you got criticism, you got shame, you got all trying to form you into something, and the nervous system is busy creating layers of behavior, layers of a sense of identity. For what? Why is it doing that? It isn't arbitrary. Remember, I started this whole thing saying that the law of attraction is a spiritual law. It's based on a very deep spiritual law. And that law, that spiritual law, is embodied in every cell in this body, the entire nervous system, the energy system, the whole thing. The entire creative mechanism has been put into place for one reason and one reason only, and that is to protect that from being corrupted. That's why it's happening. Even the spiritual devil, the most horrible thing the thing we all want to get rid of, the ego, was created to protect that. An ulterior self that can take all the damage, take all the stuff, be other stuff, so that the real you, remains hidden and protected. That's what this is about. That's how damn smart this machine is. It has been protecting you the entire time.